Hi, I'm Dawson. Think Dawson, but without the K. This is a project I'm starting where I will be breaking down movies, TV shows, or books, or just anything pop culture in general, and I'll analyze it or review it. For the first episode, I thought I would dive into one of my favorite movies and the movies I love the most, and talk about why it's so beloved and why it's amongst not only the list of best superhero movies of all time, but on IMDb's top 100 movies of all time. I want to talk about The Dark Knight.
And here we go.
The Dark Knight was written by Christopher and Jonathan Nolan, along with David S. Goyer, and directed by Christopher Nolan as well. Following 2005's Batman Begins, The Dark Knight is actually number 2 in a trilogy, which is referred to as the Dark Knight trilogy. So there's already some leeway here. You can kind of see the favoritism in this trilogy, why The Dark Knight kind of stands out as a better movie than the other two. Not to say the other two aren't great, but we're calling it the Dark Knight trilogy, right? Like, it had a big impact when it came out, and we'll talk about why. While The Dark Knight is a superhero and comic book movie, I think just viewing it as that would be the viewer's first mistake. I think a lot of people, especially now, are tired of the superhero formula. They think they're just going to get corny jokes or half-baked fight scenes without any real substance to the movie. So The Dark Knight is very different in this way, as The Dark Knight focuses more on substance than it does superhero stuff. So while there is cool big action pieces and explosions and fight scenes and car chases, this movie gets its strength from its characters. Christopher Nolan, as we know, with Inception and The Prestige and even the other Batman movies, is a really good character writer. And one thing he does really well is motives. So some of the characters in this movie have conflicting motives, and that's what makes it so good. Aside from the antagonist, our protagonists even have conflicting motives that build on the complexity of the story and give you substance that isn't just, here's this bad guy, we have to go fight him to save the world. The first example of this, and in my opinion the most important character in The Dark Knight, is Harvey Dent. Harvey starts the movie as an exact contrast to Batman. While Batman is a vigilante who hunts in the dark and fights criminals in the shadows, Harvey is actually out in the public eye. He is the DA of Gotham, and he fights people underneath the law. He fights people legally, and he actually puts away criminals almost as effectively as Batman. So Gotham sees him as a sign of hope, because he can do all this without hiding. He is someone that they know, someone that they see. He is a true Gotham citizen. Whereas Batman, as much as he cares and loves Gotham, he isn't there in the public eye. People don't see him. He is a myth and he spreads fear. Harvey saves Gotham by spreading hope, and Batman also receives this hope from Harvey, because Bruce sees this as a way to not have to be Batman anymore. In the first movie, he was in love with Rachel, and she told him that she could only be with him in a world where not only Gotham doesn't need Batman anymore, but Bruce doesn't need Batman anymore.
Someday when Gotham no longer needs Batman, I'll see him again.
He sees Harvey as his way out of this. Harvey can provide this for him because he can save Gotham with hope. He can provide Gotham a savior figure to look at as one of their own and rise above this corruption. Harvey is a white knight. Harvey, however, doesn't view himself this way. Harvey wants to be more like Batman. He sees the constraints of the laws, and he knows that he can't operate under them forever. He knows he can only do so much underneath the law. So he wants more people to be like Batman. Batman operates outside the law and takes things into his own hands to fight for the city that he loves. Harvey also feels this love, but is constricted by the laws that he abides under. He sees Batman as the ultimate hero, even though he uses fear and darkness, because Harvey knows that fear is a great motivator. In a dinner scene in the first act of the movie, Harvey expresses his point in probably the most important line of the movie. He says,
"You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain."
This is not only the overarching theme of the movie itself, but it gives a little insight into why Harvey admires Batman. Batman is clearly willing to die a hero to save Gotham. He will die a hero so Gotham doesn't have to see itself become the villain. But Harvey, he doesn't know if he's willing to die for Gotham. He will take the fall for Batman later in the movie, and he will sacrifice things. But as we can see as he progresses, he doesn't really have the capacity to give it all up like Batman will. And that's what he admires in Batman. And that's what he sees more people need to be like, including himself. Now, Jim Gordon is kind of an outsider from the both of them. He is the police commissioner, and he worked with Batman in the first movie. But Jim is kind of like an average citizen. While he is the police commissioner, he's the one that has to live a semi-normal life, has to send his kids out to deal with what's out in Gotham, send his wife out to deal with the crime in Gotham. So he really feels the effects of it. He knows what it's like to be a citizen in Gotham. So he really has to look to both of them for help. He sees the hope that Harvey provides, and he wants to motivate people with hope, but he knows how hard it is. And he sees how effective Batman's strategies have been. So he knows, as a citizen of Gotham, he has to both consult the light and the dark of Gotham in order to get what needs to be done, and to heal the city. As we can see, these characters kind of have not really conflicting views, but they all have different views on each other, and they all kind of place this hero title on the other person. There's a scene on a rooftop in this movie that conveys this message really well. And it does this by breaking what's called the 180-degree rule. The 180-degree rule basically says that when you're in a scene, when you're filming something, and one character is on the right side and one character is on the left side, even if they're not in the same frame anymore, they still have to be on that respective side of the screen until the scene's over. So let's look at a scene later in the movie where Bruce and Alfred are talking, right? Bruce starts on the left side and Alfred's on the right. They break off and they're still having a conversation. And as you can see, while Alfred isn't in the frame, Bruce is still on the left side, even though Alfred isn't there. Alfred is also on the right side in his shots. This is just a visual storytelling language that helps the audience keep track of the conversation, and that the power stays the same throughout the scene between characters, and their relationship stays the same. Now, this can be broken in many cases to convey a change in power. For example, someone might be shot up, and that could convey that they're more powerful than the person who is lower than them. Christopher Nolan breaks this rule by circling the three of them. This scene starts with Harvey in the light of the bat signal as he's looking up at the bat signal. This shows two things. One, again, it reiterates his admiration for Batman, but it also cascades him in bright light compared to the other two, showing that he is this bright hope for Gotham, and maybe the brightest that they've had over Batman. Batman comes in from the shadows. He's emerged in darkness when he enters, and he barely is lit by any light in this shot. And Gordon actually comes up from a stairwell, and I think this is the best way to show that he's kind of more grounded than the other two. Batman just appears, right? And Harvey is already there, where Gordon has to take these extra steps to get on their level. So once they're all here, they begin arguing and talking about ways to effectively take down the mob. And as this is happening, the camera circles them. And by doing this, it switches their position on the screen. And by doing so, it switches their power dynamic and the way that the conversation is flowing. So everybody gets a turn from being the center of the screen, the right, and the left. And this also helps convey the circling admiration and the circling views that they have on each other. It's kind of never ending. Harvey will always want people to be more like Batman. He'll always see Batman as a vigilante, as a true hero. Batman will always see Harvey as a way out of being a vigilante and a better path for Gotham. And Gordon will always be conflicted between the two of them, which is why he starts in the center of them in the shot. Now that we have our main three protagonists' motives out of the way, I think we have to talk about the motive of our antagonist, and possibly the greatest part of this movie, the Joker. Heath Ledger's performance in this movie is masterful. Okay, that's not the first time you've heard this. You've heard it from everybody. This is the best villain in a movie we've ever seen. When he's on screen, he demands attention, and he just brings such an energy to the screen that's hard to not watch. He's there, and he's so sporadic. Even the cast of this movie were kind of scared of him, and they didn't know what he was going to do. He was so in character. There's a great example of this when he goes to Harvey's campaign funding party, and he gets up in Alfred's face. And Alfred looks noticeably scared, and that's because his actor Michael Caine had actually never seen Heath Ledger in his makeup up until this point. So that reaction is genuine. He is genuinely terrified. Everything from the way the Joker licks his lips to the design of the character is near perfect in my opinion. And he does a great job of representing the obsession that the Joker has with chaos and dethroning Batman's ideals. Throughout the movie, Joker tells a lot of different interpretations of his own backstory, and he starts them all with,
You wanna know how I got these scars?
Joker does this as a fear tactic because his stories seem to somewhat reflect those around him. Now, at this party for Harvey's campaign funding, Joker actually approaches Rachel, and he tells her a story about his wife. He says, "You want to know how I got these scars?" And then tells her a story about how they were self-inflicted to make his wife smile. He said she always told him that he ought to smile more, and after she got severely disfigured, he did that to himself to make a permanent smile. Now, this, I think, is kind of representative of Rachel and Bruce's relationship. Rachel clearly wants Bruce to be happy and put Batman aside and be with her and be okay. She wants him to smile more. And Bruce is inflicting these scars upon himself by going out every night and fighting crime to make Gotham a safer place for those he loves, like Rachel. Joker is much like Batman in the sense that he uses fear. They are both mirrors for their victims. Joker uses fear as a primary tool to destroy Gotham and bring it into madness. And Batman uses fear to bring the criminals to justice. He tries to save Gotham with fear. And this creates a really interesting dynamic because, again, Batman is met with someone who is almost in some ways his equal. Is another person who uses fear in the way that he does, but uses it for a different reason. Joker believes chaos is the only thing that will fix Gotham because chaos is truly random. There's no bias, there's no corruption. It is just his purest form of justice. One of the things about Joker is they never actually explicitly say what his motives are. There's nothing that specifically drives him, and that's what makes him so scary as a villain. To look at his motives, we can visit some stuff in the comic books to try and piece together what it could have been. Comic books like The Killing Joke show Joker trying to prove to Batman that one bad day can actually drive someone who's completely normal to be just like him. In this movie, it is clear that Joker is trying to get Batman to break his one rule, which is not killing anyone. In the interrogation scene in the second act of the movie, the Joker says that killing someone is the choice between one life and another. And then he reveals to Bruce that both Harvey and Rachel are captured in two separate warehouses. He tells Bruce that he can only save one before the other explodes. So he gives them two addresses and tells them one is Rachel and one is Harvey. Bruce obviously chooses Rachel because he's in love with her. However, what he doesn't know is that the Joker has given him switched locations. So when he goes to save Rachel, he actually ends up saving Harvey. By having to make this decision, Joker actually makes him break his one rule because he is choosing one life over another. He is effectively killing the other person. And in this case, he kills Rachel, the one person he loves the most. In this one simple maneuver, Joker has effectively won his game with Gotham. He has made Batman break his one rule, and he has destroyed Gotham's biggest pillar of light, Harvey. Harvey lost the love of his life and is severely disfigured by the results of the warehouse situation. He is barely alive, and he has zero hope. Bruce has lost his hope in a future without Batman, a future with Rachel. Rachel's gone now, and all that is left is Batman. That hope of Bruce being able to live on without Batman is gone. Because the truth is, Bruce Wayne is his mask. Batman is who he truly is. Like Rachel said in the first movie,
Then I found out about your mask.
Batman's just a symbol, Rachel.
No, this is your mask. Your real face is the one that criminals now fear.
Batman isn't the mask that Bruce Wayne wears. Bruce Wayne is the mask that Batman wears. Batman is who he truly is, and he will continue to be that way, regardless of what happens now. The beginning of the third act, like I said before, leaves us with a new playing field. Batman has broken his one rule, and Harvey has had all the light snuffed out. But the Joker isn't done. The Joker visits Harvey in the hospital, and does this to infuriate him and also let him loose on the city. Both the Joker and Harvey at this point share an ideology and an obsession with randomness and justice. where Joker wants complete chaos and Harvey balances the lives of his victims on the flip of a coin. In this moment, by Harvey living through this explosion, he did not die a hero, and he has lived long enough to see himself become the villain. The finale of this movie, as opposed to other superhero movies, is much more psychological. After mostly empty threats from the Joker, two ferries have to evacuate from Gotham. And one of these ferries is all of the convicts from Blackgate, Gotham's prison, and the other is full of citizens. The Joker hijacks these two boats and lets them know that they are both rigged to explode at midnight. Except, each boat has a detonator. If they choose to hit that button, the other boat will explode and theirs will be saved. Joker does this to show Batman and the world that no one in Gotham is truly not corrupt and wouldn't do something like killing a whole bunch of other people to save themselves. Except, his plan doesn't work. Both groups decide not to explode the other and wait it out, and nothing ends up happening. Because the Joker, like most of his plans, are built upon lies. He knows how to manipulate people well enough to get them to this point, but he didn't actually do anything here. There were no actual explosions, nobody died, but his point still stands. Now, after his attack on the two boats, Batman beats the Joker up and captures him. But while the Joker is out of the game, he still has one pawn left on the board: Harvey Dent. Harvey has left the hospital and found Commissioner Gordon. He believes that corrupt officers on Commissioner Gordon's forces are the reason that him and Rachel were kidnapped. So, he sees the only way to fix this is by kidnapping Gordon's family and threatening to kill them in front of Gordon. Right when Harvey is about to kill Jim's son, Batman tackles Harvey off the scaffolding and ends up killing him, but saving the son. This can be interpreted as Batman saving the whole future of Gotham, saving this child and saving the next generation of Gotham to come. However, Harvey is dead, and all of the hope for Gotham is completely gone. Now they are just left with the darkness that resides within Batman to save them. And in this way, the Joker has won. He has taken Gotham's brightest hope, its brightest light, and completely snuffed it out, leaving them completely in darkness. Except, Batman has an idea. He tells Gordon that he is going to take the blame for everything Harvey has done. The mob officials Harvey has killed, kidnapping Gordon's family. He is going to take the blame and say that he killed Harvey. In this way, he's able to preserve Harvey's light and let it still go on. Gotham can still have a hero that lived on. In this way, he makes it so Harvey died a hero before he could live long enough to become a villain. And Batman has to live long and become the villain. He has to take responsibility for Harvey's actions, and he has to become something more than what Harvey could. He has to take the blame of everything so that Gotham can move on. He has to become more than a White Knight and more than a hero. He has to become a Dark Knight. The reason I love this movie so much is it has so much emotion and so much social commentary. These movies revolutionized the superhero industry. And other superhero movies like Logan that bend the superhero genre wouldn't be able to exist if not for The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight was the true first step outside of the superhero box, and it created an entire different plane of movies. It was truly a cinema-changing experience. That being said, I wouldn't say that this is the best comic book movie. This movie to me doesn't exactly feel like a comic book movie. It has a lot more in common with heist movies and suspenseful thrillers than it does a comic book movie. I still think personally that the best comic book movie title goes to Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse. While this movie is good, I don't think it's the best comic book movie because it's not able to get into those goofy, silly, action-packed, bright sequences that comics are known for. I hope by watching this video, you get a little bit more insight into why I personally love this movie so much and why people around the world love it so much. The Dark Knight trilogy as a whole is great, but this one stands out and defines an entire generation of Batman fans. Is The Dark Knight 100% perfect? No. Justice for Rachel, but it is still one of the best movies of all time, and I would have to rate it a 9.5 out of 10 overall. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you like this analysis, and hopefully you want to see more like this in the future. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything that you want to see me review or talk about. Books, movies, TV shows, like I said, any type of pop culture really. And I will see you later.